Data-driven decision-making refers to a school's ongoing process of collecting and analyzing multiple sources of data, including demographic, formative, summative, attendance, behavioral, and student achievement. Excellent leaders lean on data-driven decision-making to build a culture of inquiry and collaboration. To help me understand how, when, and where data-driven decisions are made within the educational environment, I met with 3 leaders within my school district. Mrs. L., Special Education Supervisor, District Office. Mrs. M., Vice Principal, Middle School. Mrs. T., Principal, Elementary. Data collection is not always academic. Sometimes data is used for behavior modification. Mrs. L. was reviewing a situation with a student in the middle school who sleeps throughout the day. She met about a month ago to problem solve the situation. A week of baseline data was collected, then an intervention was put into place, and data has been collected for the last 3 weeks regarding how the student has responded to the intervention. There has been a 75% decrease in the sleeping in the day, so the next steps are to look at the 25% of the day where the student is still sleeping and do a deeper dive into those 2 class periods to determine why the student is still sleeping in the 2 classes but no longer in the other 5. In our interviews, it was clear that the data is incredibly important in the educational environment. Mrs. A described the data as the basis of what we do and likened it to a story. We need to look at what the data is telling us, but also look past the data at the whole child and put it together in a meaningful way. DataWise also recommends the team develop a list of specific questions to have in mind as it examines the data and chooses or creates graphic data displays. These questions will determine the story that is communicated through the data overview. It is not enough to just collect the data. The data needs to be accurate, complete, and taken routinely with consistency so we can compare progress over time. Mrs. L. noted that at the district level, the data they use is all the classroom, district, and state assessment data, while Mrs. M. expanded on that and included personal data such as socioeconomic status and behavioral data. At the district level, Mrs. L. uses data to determine whether a curriculum is meeting student needs or whether a plan for a student is helping increase positive behavior or decrease negative behavior. She states, "Data takes the feelings and emotions out of the decision-making. Sometimes it is difficult when we have a situation and we ask for supporting data only to find the staff doesn't have any. That puts us in a tough spot." Mrs. M uses data to test for special education, monitoring students weekly for approaching becoming at risk or the need for extra instructional assistance. She also looks at data from other schools to clearly identify if her school is low in one area. She asks herself what they are doing differently and what we can beg, borrow, and steal from other schools and implement in our buildings so our students can be just as successful. Data-driven decision-making in the K-12 classroom advises to address shortcomings in current data-driven decision-making efforts. Teachers need additional support in using the student data they receive to improve their teaching and in structuring opportunities for collaboration in this endeavor. This capacity-building effort should begin during teacher preparation and continue through on-the-job professional development. Data is what we use to drive the decisions we make in special education. If our data indicates a student is making progress, we continue doing what we are doing. If the data indicates the student is not making adequate progress, then that means we have some work to do to determine what about the instruction or support in place needs to change. Without the data collection, it makes it nearly impossible to determine next steps. Specific practices educational leaders could employ in the process of data-driven decision-making includes determining objectives, gathering relevant data, staying on top of progress monitoring, developing and implementing a strategy, and staying flexible. Mrs. T advises, make sure you are recording the data in the right place, tracking it in Enrich, and graphing it. Keep questioning how the student is doing and asking whether they have met their goals or need a new one. Be familiar with the systems and schedule time for progress monitoring in your week. As I learned to make data-driven decisions, my interviewees offered great advice, but Mrs. L said it best. It is critical that in whatever system you work in whatever role, that you have a well-developed skill in Microsoft Excel. you're able to use formulas, sort, identify problems in the data, etc., so that the use of data is efficient. You want to be able to spend your time reviewing the data instead of trying to figure out how to compile it. DataWise reiterates the importance of understanding how to interpret data. There is a need to help other teachers learn to pull the data on their own rather than relying on the principal or a data manager to help them. Leadership is an endless cycle driven by the desire to contribute and cultivate change, and the collection and utilization of quality data is a crucial part of the educational environment. As leaders continue to grow and stretch, they are constantly evaluating their goals and how to fill the gaps. In Leading by Gut or Data, Fong and Caldwell state, the student lifecycle is ripe with opportunities for students to fall through the cracks, yet data can be strategically leveraged to reduce student attrition throughout the entire student experience. To establish a culture of inquiry, teachers should be participants in the process of developing a formal action plan to establish how data will be collected and used to inform instruction. In my professional practice as an ERR teacher, I plan to utilize the STAR program, ABA Applied Behavior Analysis, Instructional Method of Discrete Trial Training, Pivotal Response Training, and teaching functional routines as the instructional strategy and action plan for my students with autism. In the classroom, the STAR program will be utilized as the one-to-one teacher-student ratio throughout the day. The teacher or para will engage the student in a series of discrete trials, pivotal response training, and functional routines. The STAR instructional strategy takes the guesswork out of teaching in special education by providing the steps and sequences necessary for success. Students are assessed weekly and move to the next step after mastery. We will know the program is working if students are demonstrating mastery and showing growth. Draft action plan for teaching critical skills to students with significant learning challenges. Learner-centered problem. Students have trouble in the areas of receptive, expressive, and spontaneous language, functional routines, academics, and play and social skills. Problem of practice. As teachers, we do not have comprehensive curriculum-based assessments and documents to evidence progress for IEPs that meets the needs of students at various developmental levels. Instructional strategy. As teachers, we will incorporate the STAR program into our daily routine and lessons. We will monitor progress using the student learning profile and standardized assessments as daily data collection and yearly standardized assessments to measure effectiveness of interventions. In education, it is crucial that the decisions are based on data collection and not instinct alone. Mrs. T shared, "Grade levels come to the team with student concerns, and as a team we decide what to do with the student. Oftentimes, teachers want to go to referral because they're very concerned, but really we should be doing an intervention every 6 weeks and tracking their data. And then, if after 6 weeks they're not growing, we will try a different intervention and watch the data there and graph it. If we see growth, we will keep doing that intervention. Had we not been tracking it through data, we would think they were still struggling and not making progress. Well, the data shows they are still struggling, but they're growing, and that is what we want to see."
Created using Powtoon.